The Republican presidential race has been full of surprises, and there are more of them this morning in the latest CBS News New York Times poll. It shows Rick Santorum in first place now, leading Mitt Romney 30% to 27%. Santorum's support has doubled since our last poll 5 weeks ago. The new poll shows Ron Paul in third place, ahead of Newt Gingrich.
But the poll also finds 60% of GOP primary voters say it is still too early to decide whom they'll vote for, with most of the big states, of course, not holding their primaries now for several more weeks.
Let's look at those numbers and more with Chief Washington correspondent and host of Face the Nation, Bob Schieffer. Bob, good morning.
Good morning, Charlie.
So looking at these numbers, what do they say to you about this race for the Republican nomination?
You know, I was just sitting here this morning thinking, what is the phrase that I've used more than any other phrase during this campaign season? And I guess it is, well, here we go again. Yeah. I mean, you know, you don't have to be very old to remember when Herman Cain was the front runner here, and now you have Newt Gingrich. I think it just underlines, Charlie, that this field is still very volatile, and that Mitt Romney has still not sealed the deal with conservatives, a very large part of his party. They just don't believe he's a conservative. They're searching for their own champion, and this week it happens to be Rick Santorum.
And so when the National Review, a magazine founded by Bill Buckley, says to Newt Gingrich, get out, does that have any impact, and will it be followed by other conservatives urging Gingrich to step aside so they can focus and get behind Rick Santorum?
Well, you're not going to hear me say that Newt Gingrich is done. I pronounced him dead twice during this campaign, and I've learned my lesson on this. But I think that is a serious blow to Newt Gingrich. What's hurting Gingrich right now, Charlie, is you have no debates going on, and his whole campaign has been built around getting on television and debating these other candidates. We haven't had any. We won't have any until toward the end of February. So he has somehow got to figure out how to just hang in there until you come to these next primaries and the next debate. But right now, Gingrich is riding low.
What impresses me about Santorum coming from Pennsylvania is the fact that he is a blue-collar candidate, in his own words, and he's ahead in Michigan, which is Mitt Romney's stomping grounds, and
well,
where he lived.
And where he grew up. It's beyond just where he lived. It's where he grew up. It is very interesting to watch this Santorum campaign unfold. Santorum, his wheelhouse has always been with conservatives, social issues. He has been the one who has been strongly against gay marriage. He's the one who's been strongly against abortion. You're already seeing where he's trying to shift away from that and talk about economic issues. But again, we keep talking about the Republican establishment and who is the Republican establishment for. This is a very different Republican establishment than it was even 4 years ago. Certainly, it's a very different Republican establishment than it was when Mitt Romney's father was the governor of Michigan. This is a party that has moved to the right, and it appears to me that a larger segment of it is more conservative than it used to be just 4 years ago than we may have even thought. And the underlined evidence of that, it seems to me, is that Rick Santorum is now leading. He may actually win Michigan. And what does that do to the Romney campaign? It's hard to say, but it's not good.
It definitely would give us plenty to talk about, that's for sure, Bob. As you mentioned the fact that we talk so much about Rick Santorum being conservative when it comes to social issues, as he tries to focus more on the economy, does he have a message there and a track record that will resonate with voters beyond that social conservative record?
Well, it's hard to know that, Erica. I mean, he's for low taxes. He's pretty much for all the things that the other conservative Republicans are about. But you know, throughout his career, that has not been what he talked about. The other question is, what is Romney going to do now? And my guess is he'll go back to the one thing that seems to work for him in this campaign, and that is negative advertising. Let's not forget that at the beginning of all this, way back there in Iowa, there was a time when Newt Gingrich was leading this pack. And then the next thing you know, Romney and his super PAC dumped just a load of negative advertising on Newt. He went down. He did not really come back until South Carolina. He has run some negative advertising against Santorum, but my guess is that's going to be the next thing we're going to see is a whole lot of negative advertising aimed at Rick Santorum.
And we did just see a note that super PAC backing Romney to just buy a bunch of airtime. Bob, thanks.